Hello and welcome to the Cultivating Calmness Podcast. Today we're going to meet with Preston Moore. He is a mental health and addiction advocate for mental health stigma. He speaks all over the country, keynote speaker, has done TEDx talks, and likes to educate not only mental health clinicians, but the public about the stigma that mental health can hold and how we can look at it a little differently. So without further ado, welcome, Preston.
What's up?
Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I know, I can't remember exactly how we met, but I know we worked for the same hospital, but not at the same time many years ago. And someone, I think, introduced us, and then it was kind of off from there.
Sure.
You presented at a mental health luncheon that I hosted on kind of what we're going to talk about today. And yeah, that's what I wanted to chat about.
Yeah, that's what I think. We do. I work for a local hospital. I think it was at a networking lunch or something along those. And then Kelly, one of your girls, y'all. She always talks about you. So yeah, I don't know if she brought it up or you brought it up, but either way, I like what you're doing. So, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Well, so how did you get started just in this field?
Sure.
I'll start for you if you don't mind sharing.
So, I'm not a clinician. I'm not educated in mental health and addiction. My experience came from getting arrested a lot. So I used to, when I was much younger, using drugs and alcohol. It was one of the challenging things, which I think a lot of people go through, particularly around, I would say alcohol, but also mental health, is there's so many people that function. And what I mean by that is if you think of the stereotypes, like the guy talking to himself on the street, the super sad teenager that's cutting their arm, the person that overdoses, the person that gets DWIs all the time, those are the obvious. Whereas the less obvious ones are the people that they're upstanding members of their community. They go to work every day. They're lovable, likable. They're good parents for the most part, but they have this kind of other side. And for many, their environment that they hang out with, for example, I always tell people that the family I grew up in, dad was a newspaper publisher, mom was a hairstylist, a lot of friends and family, and there were always ice chests around. I grew up in Texas, so there was always alcohol. There's always, various other stuff as I got older, when you see someone sneaking in the woods, they weren't always just drinking out there, right? But it was fun, and everybody worked hard and everybody showed up to work. So that's kind of what I did. I went to school every day. I worked odd jobs. When I graduated high school, I got my real estate license. I went to work every day. I paid my bills, but I kept getting arrested. And so when I was, by the time I was 20 years old, I had been arrested 4 times in 3 years, and was forced into treatment. I did IOP, so it was like rehab after work. So I would go to work during the day. I'd go to treatment at night. As far as I was concerned, I didn't belong there. If I was as bad as these people, I'd be here too, but I'm not like you. I'm just wrong place, wrong time. And, I was having a conversation with my counselor. I was debating, Kaela, I don't know if you've ever had this conversation, but I was I could understand why I couldn't or shouldn't use drugs. They were illegal, but alcohol, I mean, who doesn't at least drink, But I had this hard time understanding that I was using outside substances and other things to change the way I feel and manage my emotions. And so what was confusing was, how can I be so responsible and productive in some areas of my life and yet so dysfunctional in others? Which is often, whether it's through mental health, coaching, drug and alcohol, whatever, is from the client's perspective, from my perspective, I'm only seeing what I do well. Well, yeah, but Kaela, I show up every day. Or, yeah, but Kaela, I love my family. Or, yeah, but look how well I do in this area. But the question always comes back to, well, why are you here? And how's all that working for you?
Yeah.
And okay, it's my relationship. Well, how's that working for you? Or why do you keep saying you're going to stop and you can't? How's that working for you? So that's kind of the thing that brought up the question. So when I was proposed a question by a therapist or a counselor, she said, I don't know if you're an alcoholic or not, but why, based on your history, you're on the verge of going to jail. I was about to revoke my probation. I've been finagling my probation. The state of Texas don't like their real estate agents getting arrested. Everybody who loved me were fed up. They're like, we're like, bro, come on. And so finally, when I chose to abstain just while I was in treatment, that's when kind of the layers started coming off. And I realized, holy crap, these people that I think are so different, that are much further down the addiction path than me, because I was young, I was 21. And everybody else was old. They were like in their 30s and 40s.
So old.
And I'm like, oh my God, these old people. But like, I was going, holy smokes, if I quit paying attention to the differences, like where they come from, what they look like, what drugs they use, if they've been to jail or not, all this kind of stuff. And I just listened to how they think and how they feel. I was like, dude, I feel that way. I do that. Oh, wow. I never realized. I've tried to stop a bunch and never could. So that was kind of my aha moment. I got deep into 12-step stuff. So I got sober September of 2001. So the day before 9/11 is my sobriety date. So September 10th of 2001. That means, so now this year will be 24 years. And so, but I was 12-step recovery, all kinds of personal development stuff, couples counseling, one-on-one counseling, like I've done all kind of stuff because I actually gravitate towards it. And I also am a little bit of a glutton for, I'm so bad and shameful and unworthy. I need to do more work on myself. But what that has done was it had me kind of as a practitioner, like as a user of prayer, meditation, journaling, mentorship, all the stuff. And then 6 years ago, I started working for the hospital, Dublin Springs. It was when you were there, now called Columbus Springs, but now I do outreach and I've been there for 6 years. And that's when I learned the business of the mental health side, the business of drug and alcohol addiction, the business of insurance, the business of a family practice. And that's where all my personal experience blended with the professional experience and go, oh, this is why there's such a gap. This is why it's so hard, because I talk about stigma. Part of the stigma aspect is, if I wasn't so embarrassed or ashamed, or if I actually knew something was wrong, or that there was a solution for what I got going on, or that, hey, if I could be more proactive in my mental and emotional health care instead of waiting until I get desperate, maybe I can prevent some of this stuff. But not only is the mental health and addiction system not set up that way, the healthcare system isn't. Which means if you go into your doctor and you say, hey, can we do some preventative blood work? And so they can't help you unless you want to write a big fat check. But now if you're sick, now, everything's at a discount. Now, if you got a diagnosis for mental health, now your kid can get on an EAP and now school can help. But you have to get sick first.
Yeah.
So that is kind of the under the umbrella is the vast majority of my experience is lived experience. And now understanding the system, a lot of when I go and whether I'm speaking to clinicians or schools or corporations or HR, it's trying to bridge the gap in like normal everyday language, how to utilize your services and other services like mental and emotional health care, personal growth type stuff before they need it, and make it more like I'm hiring a coach or I'm proactively looking at my personal growth and personal health. I'm proactively working on my relationship, as opposed to waiting until I'm desperate, waiting until I want to hurt myself, waiting until my marriage.
I'm drowning already.
I'm drowning. My kids are.
Yeah.
That's right. But we got a long way to go, because the same conversation could be had for physical health. Everybody already knows what they need to do to get healthy. I mean, they could figure it out on YouTube in 5 minutes. But knowing and doing is very different.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of the through line of how I got into it and where I'm at today.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you are using your like personal experience, and I think even myself included. As a therapist, it didn't come from nowhere. Mine came from personal experience and wanting to help other people who experienced things like me.
Yeah.
And so like my mom died when I was little, and so it started off in like, I want to be a doctor. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
How
about a therapist?
So along the line, other things happen, and therapy seemed to click with me. But even as a therapist, that has ebbed and flowed and shifted. And I tend to look at things a lot different today than I did even when I first started. Like when I worked at Dublin Springs, like people would come in, like you see the severe, right? You see the detoxing, the severely mentally ill. If you want to see bipolar, just go into a hospital and you will see somebody who is truly bipolar, or schizophrenic. And, in my mind at that time, it was like, well, a pill's going to fix that, like medication, get them on it. And because you would see it happen, like the medication would help. But today, I look at that much different. Like, well, what are we doing before we get to that point? How did it get to this point to begin with? Are we looking at your gut health? Are we looking at, your stress levels, blah, 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 like, et cetera.
Yeah.
Right. And so I feel like that's where you're coming from as well. Like, things may look great on the outside, but inside you're dealing with something, and let's address that.
Sure. I think in one of the keys, and this is not new, these are not new concepts. A lot of the people that I talk about, like, I'm a fan of 12-step stuff. I like AA and NA and Al-Anon and ACA and CODA for, Codependence Anonymous. And there's a lot of other ones, but those have been around for years. And the foundational principles are rooted in like a Carl Jung or I'm trying to think of the other, I'm
not coming to me either.
No, I want to say Socrates, little earlier, a little more modern than that. But even like, I like John Bradshaw. He was famous back in the 80s. And John Bradshaw was one of the first guys to talk about shame versus toxic shame. And Brene Brown's, a lot of her work on shame and vulnerability was built on the foundation of what he did back in the day. And he's talking about just the basics, because I think that's one of the mistakes we make around mental health and addiction stigma, is we think it's about mental health and addiction. And what I mean by that is, mental health and addiction, whether it's diagnosis, whether it's, this is a problem, that is the symptom of deeper rooted issues, which have a foundation in all the way back to childhood, how your parents were raised, how your which put very, very simply, Kaela, and this is just for people, it's just, how do I handle my feelings? That's it. Can I accurately identify them? Can I share them in a responsible and productive way? The vast majority of people, the answer is no. That impacts how that person has a relationship, right? So it's the way I handle my thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and behaviors impact my relationship, which then I go have children. It impacts them. My parents and grandparents are impacted. So it's this big system of, as John Bradshaw would talk about, just emotional dysfunction. And the question is not, do you have this emotional dysfunction? It's, what is your flavor of, right? Mm-hmm. Does yours come out in perfectionism and performance? Does yours come out in codependency? Does it come out in managing and controlling your eating? Does yours come out in alcoholism? You're almost lucky if you've got the alcoholism, drug addiction, or you're almost lucky if you've got deep anxiety and depression, because now you at least know. You've pinged bad enough to be in the top 20%.
To be given a label.
Yeah. And now you go, okay, wow, it's bad enough. I got to do something. But what about the 70 to 80% of people that never reach that level? So it's not that they're bad or unhappy or whatever. And it's not that they're miserable. It's that they're operating in what they call normal, and they don't even realize that their digestive issues are associated with fear, or their headaches, or their sleep issues, or their daughter's or son's depression is a direct result of long lines of, say, generational dysfunction. I don't even like getting into trauma and all the isms. It's just dysfunction.
Right.
That's it. And so the more we can talk about this in a simple way and get away from anxiety, depression, bipolar, like get away from that and just go, hey, it's just an emotional dysfunction. How do you handle your feelings? Do you ever overreact or underreact? What's your relationship with anger? Do you ever feel sad, or are you really good at stuffing your emotions? Now the question is going, am I willing to look, or do I have enough motivation or impetus to look? And unfortunately, that only comes out of suffering. Because, just being a little overweight ain't enough for me to get in the gym all the time. Right. So just having a little bit of dysfunction in my marriage, or even most people, they agree, an unspoken agreement on the way we're going to relationship in my marriage. And we're both used to it because that's what we grew up with. And like, hey, this is how we do it. It's fine. And it's actually not only it's fine, it's normal because that's who I hang out with.
Yeah.
So they don't even know that it could be different or better. And who am I to say it needs to be different or better? I don't freaking know. But those are the conversations that we need to have, as opposed to, oh, you need to get into therapy, or, oh, you got to, it's proactively talking about these things. So we are, not that we never suffer, it's just that you don't have to wait till you're so far down the path before you do something like that.
I mean, like what you said, like how's that going for you? Right? I get most people, to your point, come to me when there's something going on, right? They've hit that wall, or there's something really bothering them, or they've thought they've been doing well with it, and then all of a sudden, they're not doing well, and they recognize it, and they're like, okay, I guess it's time.
Yeah.
And so we may address that, or, some specific things are coming to mind where it's like, it's a crisis. So there's a crisis moment, we come in for this, but then once we've healed the crisis, once we've talked through that, then they're kind of like, well, I don't know what else I need to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Let's look back to childhood. Let's look back. How do you handle other crises? How do you handle other things? And then it's like, oh, yeah, there's patterns there. It's like, yeah, we can talk about those things, or we could just come in and chit chat. But here's the.
I mean, you're right, because it is and I think that's one of the, that's why I think it's so valuable to talk about this stuff in a way. It's more like mental and emotional fitness. Like nothing. Well, I'm biased. I can't think of anything that is more disrespected than mental and emotional fitness. In other words, you would never walk up to someone that is healthy, that works out, that eats right, and go, Kaela, you're so healthy. Why are you still doing that? Like, aren't you done with that? Like, you've been doing this regime for 6 years. Aren't you done with those meetings you go to at the gym or church? Or, aren't you done with that? Why are you still going to that church on Sunday? That's crazy. But yet, when it comes to alcoholism, drug addiction, counseling, therapy, they're like, dude, you're still going to meetings? Dude, aren't you done with therapy? Aren't you done with therapy? Like, dude, what's up? So that is part of shifting the perspective, right? And then the other part is creating a culture or a lifestyle of mental and emotional healthcare practices or mental and emotional wellness practices. That it's when you have a crisis, you go do that. That's the other thing about therapy. I love therapy, but typically there's money or insurance associated with it. You're going to address something. You're not built to be in therapy forever. If you are, you kind of have a buddy in a lot of ways. So I'm more of a developing practices, prayer, meditation, journaling, mentorship. In AA, they call it sponsorship. So you're mentoring, helping others. You're being mentored, helping others. I like peer-led support group stuff. Again, I'm biased. I've told you that, but very equivalent to church or very equivalent to that workout group. That you're going there on a consistent basis. You don't wait until you're miserable to go. You just go.
Right.
And because you go, you're I'm more likely to hear a message and I go, shoot, I kind of quit doing that. I need to get back on it. Or when I'm going, whether I want to or not, when things are good, and it's part of my social life. It's part of my social network, right? You look at anything that anybody is good at, they spend hundreds and thousands of hours doing it. And often they do it because they like it, not because there's something wrong and I need to go. So, and then when my wife and I need therapy, we go hire a therapist, we work through some stuff, we have tools and skills. Sometimes we stay longer than others, we go back. Sometimes she's in and out, but we have a culture in our family. We have a culture of this standard thing we're doing on a regular basis. Doesn't mean we avert all challenges and we don't struggle, because believe me, we do. But there's never I don't have to muster up the energy to put my shoes on and go to the gym because now I'm 80 pounds overweight. I don't have to do that because I have an entire, it's part of our life.
Built in.
It's what I do for fun. And so for some people, that sounds weird and boring, but if we had more of a culture of like that, like everybody would have a mentor, right? Everybody would have a coach. Everybody would have therapists that they use. And I think the other thing about some of the things that makes it so hard is support groups are weird. Therapy's weird. There's a lingo and a verbiage that is used in both. Therapy and counseling is one of the things that makes it very difficult is you got to build a relationship. And not all therapy styles are created equal for everyone. So you may be, I was just listening to this because I never thought of this. Think of like A-type high achievers. I'm not that, right? That's not my jam, but
me either.
They need that they're more a structured protocol. Because I was thinking about, because IFS therapy, I love IFS therapy, right? So that's parts work, right? And so this lady was talking about, I'm a high achiever. I don't meditate. I can't meditate, but I like IFS work because it's very structured. EMDR, very, structured. And so, but she's more A-type. Let's go. Give me the things. I'm going to go, whatever. But I'm a bit more, which is unreal saying this. I'm a bit more, I want to see some stuff. I'm trying to tap into my emotions. I like meditation. I like visualization stuff. I go to this men's group where we do a lot of, it's psychodrama. We're not therapists, but it's like, Carl Jung talks about this, which is, you can't deal with the emotion if you don't feel the emotion. You got to feel the emotion in order to transform
yourself to feel it.
That's right. Whereas a lot of people, they don't, not only that, they don't want it. So they want a structure. Give me a structured way of thinking. And so maybe IFS parts works because you're basically just having a conversation in your head with different parts of you. That means your 6-year-old part, your responsible part, your rebellious. So you're having a conversation in your head. I don't want to go sit and meditate quietly and then scream out my feelings in a group. So that's another ripple. Bless you. That's another ripple in. Maybe you tried therapy. Maybe you've done couples work. Maybe you've gone to men's group. But again, do you have the desperation, drive, willingness, impetus to actually go enough? That's why in AA we say 90 meetings in 90 days.
Yeah.
Right? 90 meetings in 90 days, which means and we have a little bit of an upside or a cheat code when people end up in AA, because they usually come in desperate. So we go, your marriage is on the rocks, you hit rock bottom, you're on the verge. So now they go, I'll do anything. So they go 90 meetings in 90 days. That's actually not that much. That's 7 hours a week. That's the average amount of time, right?
Yeah.
It's not that much.
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning, it sucks. It's terrible. It's weird. But somewhere after about 30 days or 60 days, you're going, I get it. It's starting to make sense. Oh, but most people go to 1 or 2 and they quit. Al-Anon, that's for families of, or ACA, or some of these other things, or church, or counseling therapy. Like, yeah, I did 6 sessions, and it didn't really work. I'm like, well, go to 25.
Right. I didn't feel better right now.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta go. It makes sense It makes sense in the religious circles, because when I put it in the context of picking a new church, I go, if you're picking a new church or you move to a new place, you wouldn't just go once or twice, would you? And they're like, no, it probably takes about a year. And I go, yeah. Counseling, therapy, support groups, meditation. The amount of people go, oh, I don't like sitting in group and sharing my feelings. Yeah, duh. Me neither. I can't meditate. Duh. I don't like working out. Duh. Nobody does.
I also attribute that to like, kind of like what you're saying, like there's that consistency, but it's also foreign to you. Like,
yes,
we don't do these things. And so when you don't do them and you're asking or telling people and you're suggesting, hey, go do this, it's like you get that ick, awkward, weird, uncomfortable. And I have this conversation all the time now. It's like, yes, that is true.
Yeah.
It will feel all of those things.
Sure.
And yet I still want you to go, and I still want you to try it, because that feeling will go away.
Yeah.
Once you get used to it, like the 90 and 90 days.
Sure.
Like at some point you kind of go over that hump and you're like, oh, this is not so bad.
And it starts to make sense again, just like when I went through rehab, the 12-step stuff, working out, meditating. It is, it takes a while. And then you can even, which is challenging, but what a lot of people don't realize, especially if they haven't done a ton of work, which is like understanding your subconscious, or understanding that if you look at parts, there's a part of you that doesn't want you to get better, because they like when you're in chaos, you need them. This is we're talking enough for here, but like there's a part, for example, there's a part of me that believes that if I'm not worried about something's wrong. Now, understand how contradictory that is.
Yeah.
Like, understand that, like, if I have trust and faith and I feel happy and joy, that I actually might not see something. Something may catch me off guard. I'm going to die.
Yep.
So I better not get too joyful.
Right.
And so that is like this, or even in relationship, right?
That, like, those are those protective parts, right? And so I'm not skilled in IFS. I have some training in IFS, more training in EMDR, but I think both can go together well. But
they do go together.
Like what you're, another side of that, or way of looking at that, is, well, how can we join with that part?
Sure.
Because we need all of our parts.
Yeah.
And they want to protect us. But the way I look at it, and what I tell my clients, is that part is protecting you in a way that no longer serves you.
Sure.
It did maybe serve you at some point in your life. At some point, it worked.
Yeah.
Because it had to. Now that you've done some healing, now that you're in a better place, you recognize that part maybe isn't so helpful, and we're not sure how to get rid of it. And we're saying, no, we don't want to get rid of them because that can backfire.
Sure.
We're saying, hey, like, come with me, but maybe take a step back.
Sure.
Or can we find a new role for you?
Yeah,
like a kid who's going from an only child to, a big brother or sister, right? Well, you aren't going to have the same role anymore.
That's right.
Now I need you to help with your little sibling, versus like, go away.
Yeah.
I look at it like that, right? So that part that you're describing, right? It's like, well, that's there for a reason, and it's trying to protect you. You just don't need that protection anymore.
That's right. And I think And so I think that is so, because for example, when someone goes to, like, let's say if they're doing anything new, it's because I feel like if we're going to really address stigma, right? Stigma is a negative bias it's a bias or judgment, typically negative, that we have to associate it with something that they can understand. For example, you cannot go work at McDonald's without 40 to 80 hours of training. And you're going to do those 40 or 80 hours of training in 1 to 2 weeks. Okay? That's standard. When you get a new job, you're often going to do 2 weeks of intense training. You're going to be on probation for 90 days. It's probably going to take you 6 months to a year to start feeling comfortable. And people go, yeah, I get that. And they spend 40 hours a week. What's that? 160 hours a month, roughly. Right? 40, what is that, 80?
A week, 160 hours a week.
A month, right? Yeah, 40 hours a week.
Quick.
I mean, well, I'm trying to do quick math. I'm just thinking, whatever. Let's just say it's a lot. Okay? And then, but you're naturally uncomfortable. You're naturally going, oh my God, but you figure it out because you have to be there. You've got, if you don't, you're going to really end up desperate. But it is understandable that I'm going to be uncomfortable building these new relationships and learning this new skill.
Right.
So when I ask you to meditate for 20 minutes, 7 days a week, when you add up those, that's 2.5. What does it come out to? 2.5, almost 3 hours.
Yeah, a week.
A week.
Yeah.
So if I told you, hey, I want to work for you. I want to get this new job. I want to learn a new skill, and I'm going to practice 3 hours a week. You're going to tell me you don't really want to learn the new skill.
Right.
So why is this isn't any different? And everything in you is going to tell you you're in the wrong place. It's not working. Help, this is not, because all those, remember, we're talking about, can I accurately identify my feelings and can I communicate? Everything in me, even if we don't even talk parts where we just talk about the subconscious is going, what, don't do that. It's just so crazy. Right? And so that is why people are feeling, and desperate might be a little bit extra, but they're craving a solution.
Yep.
What they really want is the pain to go away, the relationship to get better, their kid quit suffering, us to quit fighting. So they've got some motivation. They want the pain to go away. They're looking for a solution. And you give them a solution that's going to involve 3 to 10 hours a week. And they cannot get their mind around it because when it comes to mental and emotional fitness, it doesn't fit.
Right.
But it fits when we talk about working out, when we talk about religious practices, when we talk about learning a new skill, working. I mean, imagine a parent telling their kid wants to get good at baseball. And the kid goes, yeah, man, I'll practice 1 hour a month. That father or mother is going to have an aneurysm of anger because their child wants to be good at something 1 hour a month, yet I ask them to go to a counselor once a week, and they're just like, oh, no way, and this is hard, and I can't do it. Yeah. So it's trying to redefine what this stuff means and the willingness to do it. And then I would argue that if we get enough people doing it, and then this is actually a skill, which is how do we teach people to break their anonymity, share their experience, let people know that they do these things in a responsible and productive way. How can I share that I'm a person in recovery in a responsible and productive way? How can I share that I am an advocate and benefit greatly from couples counseling? How can I share that I do this stuff in a responsible and productive way, and I'm good at it, and I teach people about it, but I tell everybody knows.
But that goes back to the emotion connection, right? Because it kind of is acknowledging that there's vulnerability and sharing personal information about yourself. Those things that we would rather keep quiet and keep behind closed doors, like, oh, I go to couples counseling. Oh, that means your marriage is on the rocks. Or,
well, I think that's part of the skill. Yeah. Because I would argue, and this is, again, nothing I'm saying is new.
Right.
like, I don't tell people, when I first started couples counseling, or when I first started being in recovery, or when I'm crashing and burning and I'm really struggling, I'm not out there telling people. I'm too ashamed. But once you get on the other side, and like, once you get on the other side, now I can go, oh yeah, hey, I've benefited from those groups. You should go. Or, hey, me and my wife, we really benefited from couples counseling. Man, me and her are we are on the same page. We've been doing great for a year because couples counseling. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's, I'm talking after I've had some solution and some success. Now I'm sharing it in a responsible and productive way. Not, hey, nice to meet you, I'm suicidal and going to therapy. That is not, and that's also not vulnerability. That's kind of trauma dumping in a bit, because I want you to feel, well, I'm making a judgment. I want you to feel sorry for them. But in AA, we talk about, you share the stuff after you've got solution. Right. So in theory, people's perception of a 12-step or a support group is you go dump all your stuff. If you're actually working a program with a sponsor and working the stuff out of the book, I'm actually working through my stuff with my sponsor and my support group. I'm actually doing some journaling, some meditation, I'm going through all the stuff. Then when I come share it in the meeting, I go, here's what happened. Mm-hmm. I had a traumatic experience. I wanted to drink. I had a big blow up with my son. I have this problem. Here are the tools that I used. I called my sponsor, read the book. I did some journaling. I meditated on it. I worked through some stuff. I apologized. I made an amends. I did this stuff. And I did all that stuff. And guess what? Not only I stay sober, but I'm actually so grateful for this. And the solutions and the program worked. I shared the experience. I shared what happened. I shared the hope that you can do it too. When I'm just sharing in it, mm-hmm. I'm just sharing the mess.
Right.
I'm just sharing the crap. I'm just going, oh, I'm anxious. And they go, yeah. But we don't have any solution. So when I teach people about how do I share my experience in a responsible and productive way, I tell people, hey, if you ever know anybody, it's real passive. I kind of call it like a drive-by a bit, is, hey, I'll say, by the way, Kaela, I got a lot of experience around drug and alcohol addiction, couples counseling, stuff like that. If you ever know someone that struggles in that area, let them know they can talk to me, because I've had a lot of benefits from that. And you go, okay, cool. And I go, great, let's go get some coffee. Where are we going? So it's like a drive-by nugget drop. Yeah. I'm not telling them all the biz. And most people go, oh, that's cool. Wow, good for you. But on occasion, some people go, whoa. But even more specifically, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 3 years later, yeah, they go, hey, Kaela, you're the only one I thought of that I could talk to. I'm like, I told you that 6 years ago. But you see the difference, right? Yep. And so they know that I do it. They know I'm not weird. I hope. Wow, he's a nice person. Okay. So it's just planting those seeds in people's mind. Oh yeah. Hey, I got a great therapist, man. We work through all kind of stuff, man. I'm doing great. And they go, the mistake people make is they try to convince and they deep dive into that conversation, as opposed to just going, hey, I'm an advocate. If you know somebody struggling, let them know. You can give them my number. You can ask. Not you. Hey, if you know someone. Because if you go, what happens? That's exactly right. That's a skill. It's always indirect. It's always indirect. If you know someone's struggling in their marriage, I would, depending on the situation, but I would say, hey, by the way, I know, dude, you're doing great. I can see your marriage is great. But if you know anybody that's ever like struggling in their marriage, me and my wife, we've done couples counseling, we do couples work, we do couples retreats. If you ever know anybody that's again, I know you're great, you're good. They can ask me, you can give my number out to them, and they go, oh, cool, yeah, awesome, thank you. I'm talking to them. But if I told them, hey, it looks like you're struggling in your marriage, instantly they're going to tell me all the reasons why it's going great, and they don't need it. Right. Because embarrassment, shame, defense, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so that's a skill. Yeah. And so if we have more people that go, I do it when things are good. I do it when I'm struggling. I do it as a solution. Like even with my son, when we went through a challenge with my son when he was around 6. And he started saying, I'm going to kill myself. I don't even know where that came from. Right. But it was really more of a behavior and reactive. I don't even know that he knew what it meant, but we're going to take him to counseling, which was great. But because of my wife and I's history and what we do daily, right? I go, hey, son, do you know how I work with Tony, my mentor? And you know how, my boy Sam comes over and I mentor him. And you know how mom works with Tina. And you know how we do the men's groups and that, like, those are our coaches. And he goes, yeah, of course I know. Like, I was like, well, we're going to get you a coach. And he goes, oh, cool. It's a child therapist.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't go, something's wrong with you. You've got anxiety. You're talking about killing yourself. Now we're going to take you to this where the bad kids go.
Mm.
So he goes, oh, cool. So now he'll go, hey, I think I want to go talk to my coach again. Can we? And we're like, no, that's too expensive. Let's wait. But actually we got some stuff. We're actually going to take him back because we just got some parenting, some triangulation parenting. But it's not because something's bad. I just need some help.
Yeah.
And he has some, but it's not weird and it's not bad because we are practitioners.
Yeah.
We do it.
Yeah.
And we talk. That's why I like coaching.
Mm.
I call my therapist or counselor coach. Now it's not weird. You go, you want to go to therapy? No. You want to hire a life coach because you got a lot of goals, dreams, and aspirations? They're like, yeah, I care about life. Let's go. So I just say, oh, come talk to my coach. So it's semantics, but it's talking in a way that it can bring the guard down, or we can get more people to do it. And the truth is, most people aren't going to do it anyway. So we just got to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
So
a lot of good points in there. I feel like we could probably talk on any one of those things for a while. But you do talk a lot about utilizing those supports, the coaching and the meetings and support groups, etc. To go back a little bit, like you went through AA. There are a lot of people who also feel like AA is not for them, or right, there's a stigma against AA, like it's Christian, or they talk about God in there, and we've had a luncheon where that was brought up, and it was kind of framed like, yes, and it's more of like whatever you interpret God or some higher power, something greater than you to be. But I think that's a stigma in and of itself, right? Like when I hear AA, I think, oh, they pray. That's not for me. I'm not going.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that's also one of the coolest things of where we're at right now, societally, is we have more access to more information and resources and opportunities than we've ever had. People are talking about mental health and addiction more than they ever have. There's more grant money. There's more trainings for police, fire, first responders, and doctors. There is more insurance coverage. More schools are talking about it. People are talking about it. That's the upside. The downside is there's so much information that people don't do things. So that is also part of. Now, you always have to understand that I'm biased towards the way that I got my stuff. But I would argue, because I get people that are anti-religion say, I don't want to go to AA because they talk about God, and they do. I get religious people that say I don't want to go to AA because they don't talk about the right God. That's why desperation is valuable. Because when you're desperate, I don't want to go. I don't believe in God. But what I'm doing really ain't working. And they're willing to show up 20, 40, 60, 90 times long enough to go, oh, this is not what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I've got to convince you, you're not going to go anyway.
Yeah.
So the concept is around a power grading yourself. Actually, when they started AA, there was only about 100 members. And they used to, before the book was around, Dr. Bob, who was very religious, and Bill W., who was not religious at all. Dr. Bob would put his knee on the chair, and he'd open up the Bible, and that's where they'd get their topic out of. And so as they started to write this program, because they would have these people, this was in Akron, Ohio, they would have these people and they would be traveling through and we're helping people, but it's not growing. We got to have a book. We got to have a book, a program, a structure that you could send this guy to California with the book and he could start the same thing.
Right.
And so they were writing the steps, and step 3 is, we came to believe in a power greater than ourselves, or made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the power of God.
Mm-hmm.
That was the step. And one atheist said, I don't believe in God. We need to put something extra. And they came up with, made a decision to turn our will and our life over the care of God, comma, as you understand Him. And that one person opened the door for me, because I didn't believe in God. I'm not a Christian, right? That I struggled in that area. Today I have a relationship with God. God is let's say I believe in God. I'm not a Christian or whatever, but I've got atheist friends. I've got agnostic friends. I've got Christian, Muslim. I've got Buddhist, but we're all in the same room. But remember, I can't understand. I got a guy I'm working with right now, hardcore Christian dude,
Mm-hmm.
right? But what he was doing wasn't working. And he's doing some, now they got Christian addiction type groups. There's one called Celebrate Recovery, which is, again, they even say they're not religious, but they're more geared towards the Bible type stuff. Another one that I like, it's a support group called Smart Recovery.
Mm-hmm.
They're more cognitive behavioral therapy based. They're not even they're more intellectual structure, which again is good. But this guy's, he's kind of struggling. And I was like, yo, would you like me to take you through the steps? I know you're not going to go to AA. It's not your thing, but again, it's how's it working for you the way you're doing it? He's like, well, he had enough desperation, and we're reading through the book and they strip out. As a matter of fact, I didn't go to AA early on. I went to NA because it felt too religious to me. That old language. I mean, I'm from Texas. I had a visceral reaction to Christian talk. Visceral. I didn't want anything to do with it. And so I went through NA. It was a little bit more of a modern language, but now I've been doing it a long time, so I kind of go everywhere. But so we're walking through this, and the entire time he's just dumbfounded. He's like, I can't believe this is just like out of the book I read. I'm like, yeah, they just use different language, right? Dumbfounded. Everything we go, it's the structure. He's like, wow, this is so. And what I would say is the genius behind these programs is the door has to be broad enough that everybody can walk in. Once you walk in and get the help for whatever you're there to get help for, whether it's emotional dysfunction, your family, living with alcohol, struggling with alcoholism, drug addiction, whatever, it opens through open-mindedness and willingness and honesty. Things aren't working. I'm willing to show up and be uncomfortable, even though I may not agree with it. And open-mindedness. Hey, the shit I'm doing is not working. Then I go, wow, this is so much broader than I ever thought possible. And if I wasn't desperate, and if I wasn't willing, and if I wasn't open-minded, and if I wasn't honest, I would have never gotten in here. And I often believe that a lot of the rejection or excuses that we get are just that. It's just an excuse for me not to go through the door of whatever, right? Well, I don't want to do therapy because, I don't want to meditate because, I'm not really into that and I can't quiet my mind. Well, I don't want to go to group because I don't like sharing in front of people. Well, I don't want to go to AA because of the religious aspect. Mm-hmm. And I go, so don't go. And they go, yeah, but I need help. How's that working for you? Well, where do you want to go? Okay. Or if you're going to go, give me 20 meetings. I don't have then don't do it. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. So, but it's, if someone is open and willing, therapy, for example, do 12 to 20 sessions. I don't have the money. Okay, then don't. I'll go to this free stuff. Well, I don't like that. Well, then we got to have something, Kaela. There's got to be something there. And so when you talk about it in that way, or you're at least willing if you're at least willing enough to go to, like, for example, if you said, so in AA, we say 90 meetings in 90 days. One of the biggest challenges to get people to do some work in that area is the family. It's Al-Anon, it's ACA, it's the couple, it's the family of, it's the parents of, it's the spouse of. And why do you think they're the most challenging?
There's a lot of resistance to change, or this is not going to work.
There's not going to work.
Point.
But who's the problem?
They're the problem. We don't have a problem. Right.
We want to help.
Yeah.
No, we want to help. And so, that's true. And so ACA, which is it's the most slept on 12-step program there is, Adult Children of Alcoholics and Family Dysfunction. You ever heard of that one?
No.
ACA. That big red book is probably the best piece of recovery literature there is, and the vast majority of people don't know about it. ACA, imagine a family, dad's an alcoholic, mom's an Al-Anon. Al-Anon's for families of, they get into recovery. The kids are going to Alateen, which is amazing, right? The kids age out of Alateen. They're not alcoholics, so they don't identify with dad's AA. They're not married to an alcoholic. And they're not mom, because I'm not going to go be with mom. So they don't identify an Al-Anon. They're too old for Alateen.
So where do we go?
But they grew up in alcoholism.
Right.
But it was, but they had drinking in the family. But even if it's recovery, like my wife and I say, my child is being raised in an alcoholic home. He is being raised in an alcoholic home. I'm an alcoholic in recovery. She's an Al-Anon. My father-in-law's an alcoholic who's been sober for 12 years. The alcohol is the symptom. It's not the problem. If it was a problem, alcohol has been gone on my life for 24 years. I shouldn't have any problem.
But it's also the thing that brought you all together. It's
but it's the ism, it's the family, it's the dynamic, it's the self-centeredness and codependency and obsessive thinking. Like that's the alcoholism.
Yeah.
Right. And so ACA was, you had these people that grew out, like aged out of Al-Anon or Alateen, but didn't identify over here. So like, but we have these issues. Oh, we're adult children of these alcoholics. But what was interesting, it was kind of a subset of Al-Anon. And at some point they said, yo, you either need to join Al-Anon or you need to peel off and do your own thing. What are you going to do? They peeled off to do their own thing. And what was interesting was, as they started to grow, this was back in the 70s, so they took therapy, Al-Anon, and AA, and they mushed it together. And they found out, as they kind of progressed, about half their membership didn't have alcoholism in their first or second generation. So this is weird. What is this? Why is this? One, that's why they added the and family dysfunction. And often you can't tell, how many people do you think are struggling with the remnants of alcoholism because of their great-great-grandmother? How do we know that? We don't.
Well, so that brings up a good thing. I don't know if you've ever heard this. And I only learned this, I don't know, in the last couple of years. But so like as a female, which you are not, we have our eggs, and we have our eggs from like the moment we're born. So technically, right, my grandma has carried me. Right. So anything that my grandma went through while she was pregnant with my mom, right, will be, in theory, transferred into me. So that's that, historical trauma and historical like health.
Yeah.
Right. And so like when we're trying to change our health and we're trying to change our mental health today, we also have to look back at what was my grandma going through at, during her life that now that affected my mom, that affected me, which nobody does. And, it's not something that I had considered until recently. And so I think that just goes along with that, right?
That's exactly right.
We carry those things unknowingly, right? And even if like they've tried to heal, like I'm trying to eat a healthier diet and I try to, do things better. That doesn't mean that I'm not still affected by whatever my mom went through, my grandma went through, et cetera.
That's right.
So,
and what you're talking, so we're talking about a couple things. For example, how do animals know, baby animals know that when a shadow of a big bird crosses over them, that they should be scared? How do they know that? Right? What you're talking about too is why it's so important for people to learn where emotions start or are stored in the body, which sounds woo-woo. That's body keep the score stuff. But often fear for me starts in the gut before I have the thought of fear. I actually feel it here. So they did a study with mice. Was they would pump a scent of cherry blossom, right? And every time the scent came through, it would shock the mom and the dad. It would shock them every time it came through, right? They took the animal out, right? The mice got pregnant outside of this box, outside of this no cherry blossom influence at all. Their babies, they pumped cherry blossom scent through, and they were nervous. How do they know to be nervous? They weren't getting shocked. They'd never been shocked. They hadn't been with their parents shocked. They weren't even a thought in their baby mouse's parents' minds, right? Mm-hmm. How do they know that when a cherry blossom smell comes through that they're supposed to be nervous? That's the kind of stuff. That's why you're lucky if you have alcoholism in your family. You're lucky if you have acute mental health stuff in your family. You're lucky because now we know there's some solution out there. We've got some structure. Like, I've been to meetings all over the world. I moved from Texas to Philadelphia to Columbus. People think I'm crazy. We visited Columbus once for 5 days. We went home, put our house on the market in Philadelphia, and moved 3 months later. They're like, what are you doing? I have instant connections with people. I just go into meetings, right? You're lucky if you've been impacted by alcoholism, drug addiction, or some of these other things. Well, think of the similarities of when in ACA they talk a lot about other compulsive behaviors or family dysfunction, like all the family types, just perfectionism, militaristic or overly strict, mental health or chronic illness in the home. People miss that. Physical, sexual, verbal abuse. By the way, this is ACEs stuff before ACEs, right? Mm-hmm. And then foster care, adoption, and divorce, and then other compulsive behaviors. What's the difference between a father that is arrested and goes into prison for the rest of his life, a mom that dies early, a dad that's home all the time but not emotionally available, and a product of divorce, or a family that gets divorced, right? And the other one is a family that gets divorced and splits, and then a workaholic dad. He works all the time. What's the difference? Some are going, wow, you're so lucky. Your dad is so successful. Amazing. But they have the same feelings often of abandonment, struggle with trust, feeling worthy, important, as the dad that went away to prison, the mom that died early, and the family that got divorced. But nobody makes those connections to the ism or the dysfunction or the alcohol. Like imagine not knowing that your father or mother's workaholism, they don't drink, or maybe they have it under control, they do all these things. Imagine not knowing that overwhelming need to perform and to work, and they say, oh, I love it, it's great, whatever. Mm-hmm. And they probably do. Imagine not knowing that comes from two generations back that had a sloppy alcoholic dad, and that kid said, I'm never gonna do that. They went the straight and narrow route. They raised great kids. They worked their tail off. They were religious. They did everything right. And their son became a workaholic type dude. It's the same obsessive compulsive, often rooted in the way I justify my worthiness is by.
Yes.
And they don't know, right? This is why it's so so if we create a culture of looking,
right?
Some people don't want to look. That's fine. We create a culture of learning this stuff.
Yeah.
We no longer have to be moderately miserable or moderately happy, and we don't have to wait until we're suicidal to make a change. Imagine the impact of a anxious parent in the home on children over 40 years. They're not an alcoholic. They're not a drug addict. They're not a loser. They're not a, they're just a good, regular person. But mom is anxious. I go, let's not call it anxious. Let's just say fearful. Makes it a little more simple. Scared of all the time, trying to control what's going to happen, fear of the future, whatever, right? What's the impact on mom and kid?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. But because if we just look at the problem isolated on its own,
right,
we are missing the picture.
Yeah, we're looking at like as you said earlier, you didn't say these words, but like sick care, right? Yes. We're just doing sick care with everybody versus like that wellness care. Like we want you to be well.
Yeah. And
how do we do that? It's that we know, like you said, healthy diet, exercise, like you got to do that to be healthy, right? But we don't look at the mental health side. Like how do you keep yourself mentally well?
Sure.
As well as physically well. And you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
Right.
I've never thought about this before, but imagine the difference. Let's just talk physical wellness. Let's say overweight, blood tests, blood results are off. But imagine the difference of someone that goes, two people, both overweight, need help, want to get healthy. And one goes fad diet, out of a box, pills, diety, low fatty stuff, right? They're following a program.
Right.
That's one. It works. Mm-hmm. Let's be clear. And then the other one that goes, how did our ancestors eat? Where does this food come from? You know what? Maybe I'm going to start looking at not only what's in my food and grows out of the ground and comes from an animal or whatever the thing is. I'm going to start looking at some of my cleaning products, whatever. And I'm just going to start educating myself and learning and cooking different. It may take a little bit longer. And fast forward a year, they're both in similar places, but they took two different routes. Which one has the better chance of maintaining that and changing long term?
I mean, I know.
That's right. But that's kind of the equivalent of give me a pill, give me a quick fix, just tell me what to do. Okay, the trying these solutions to quit drinking or to get rid of my anxiety versus let me understand where we come from and where I come from and why this and what, and then eating real food and things out of a box. It's the end both work. Yeah. The end results roughly are kind of the same, but if we scratch below the surface, one is more of a lifestyle, culture, more natural change, and one is
quick fix. But it can turn, to your point about they're very similar but different, right? The out of the box can have long-term success.
Yeah.
It's not going to have the same foundation.
Yeah. And if you get that, go do it.
Right.
I'm not saying good or bad, it's whatever, but I'm just going, which do you want? And sometimes that out of a box solution can actually turn into, this is temporary. I need to learn.
Yes.
That got you going. So we actually don't know, but I want to have these larger conversations because when I go speak, I just spoke at a conference yesterday. And I get people in the room and they're there to learn about how do we carry a better message about mental health and addiction and how do I help these kids? This is a school conference, administrators and how do we get these kids to act right is kind of what they're in there for. How do we get my staff to do what I want them to do? Whatever.
Yeah,
the case
not the surface.
Yeah. But when we get, because 1 in 10 suffer from drug and alcohol addiction, whatever, it's 1 in 10, it's 10 to 12%. NAMI says about 1 in 5 suffer from anxiety, depression, diagnosable mental health. That's only, let's say 30% of our population. There's a lot of what do you call that? Dual diagnosis type stuff. But we're talking 20 to 30% of population.
Diagnosed.
So 70% of the room doesn't think it applies to them, right? I would even argue 95% of the room doesn't think it applies to them. So what I do is I say, let's put mental health and addiction aside for a minute because we can agree that's bad and they need help, those poor people, all. And then I start talking about relationships. I start talking about family. I start talking about how does your family handle things like anger? You ever overreact or underreact? Now I can get the entire room to answer the questions that I ask. Oh, we do that. Oh my God, I do that. Oh my God, my relationships. Oh, I have a bad picker, right? Like I keep ending up in the same relationship. Oh my God, I'm always achieving. It's never enough. Oh my God, sometimes I can't sleep and I can't. Or you know what? I'm such a bad picker. They can answer oh, my parents did that. My grandparents did that. They can. It's phenomenal how many people go, that's me.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then I go, would it surprise you that the same feelings of inadequacy, worthlessness, self-esteem, overcompensation, the dual personalities, of like, judge me on who I present to you, not who I am. All, do I matter? Am I important? Multiple divorces or just challenges in a relationship, whatever, parenting issues, all that stuff that we just talked about that you can answer the questions is an exact mirror to growing up in an alcoholic home. That if I told you all those struggles and challenges come because someone was raised in an alcoholic home, everybody would go, yeah, duh, they were raised in an alcoholic home. But yet all these other things create the same type of environment and they don't even know it. And the other sneaky thing I do is I go, and all those family types and all these examples is straight out of a 12-step program called ACA. And they're like, what? That's crazy. Now, I'm not going to do anything about it, but how interesting. Mm-hmm. So what I'm attempting to do,
you're trying to get them to see things.
What I'm attempting to do is try to help people see that we've all got something.
Yeah.
And then there are solutions all around us. But unless we have the willingness to go and to be uncomfortable and to seek and to learn to meditate and to learn, to go through IFS stuff or learn EMDR stuff or go to couples counseling or go to these 12-step meetings and do a lot of it up front until you get over the hump of being uncomfortable, we're still going to have the same issues. And guess what? We're just going to, what most people are doing is they're repackaging their trauma and dysfunction and they're giving it to their kids as a gift.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. You're doing it. They're doing it. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean,
that's not like, I don't know if you've seen that, like, not a meme, but the video of like, they have the coffee, they pour the black coffee into like a cup, and like generational trauma is like, we just keep pouring the coffee into a new cup.
Yeah.
But we can be that person that stops that.
Sure.
Right. But even then it's, well, now you have a cup of water and we're pouring it. And so it's like lighter. And we got to keep lightening.
That's right.
Healing it.
Because there is no stop.
Right.
There is no stop. I take the good things that my parents did and I try to get rid of the bad things as best I can. And then I repackage it in something different. I think it's different, but it's actually the same type of stuff, just repackaged. So to get that, there is a lot of things you can do in one generation, but most of the time it's not. And it's also, I want to help people understand that this isn't about fixing or getting rid of or changing this thing forever.
Yeah.
It is about it's about a more structured, proactive, and preventative way to learn who I am, how I handle my feelings, how do I build healthy relationships and be a man of honor, be a man of respect, be a man of integrity and authenticity, right?
Yeah.
But without screwing my kids up too much, but I'm going to screw them up anyway. They're going to be on the freaking therapist couch anyway. So what, right? So, but I'm trying not to give them as much crap or a lighter version, right? But they're going to have it, right? So there is no fix and change. Now, I love when I see someone come in that's down and out, overdosed, arrested, grew up in rough neighborhoods, and they come in and they go, this stuff stops with me. And they become a parent and they screw up, but they go to meetings and they do all this kind of stuff. And they go, my kid doesn't have to see me do that or get arrested it's like, I don't know if my kid's going to use drugs or have the problem. They have a good chance because, mental health and addiction is often genetic. And so they have the genetic component in some way, shape or form, but they don't have to see me falling down drunk and over, right? So you can change that, but to think that you're going to change to think that my mother being dropped off at age 6 in a children's home is going to not affect me because I didn't see her in a children. That's preposterous, right? Mm-hmm. But we can start to create a culture of, men's groups, support groups, couples counseling, whatever, and basically going, this ain't weird. And there's a lot of really cool people that do some really cool things that is emotionally evolved, and you're not weak, and you're not, in men's mind, just not feminine, right? Be more masculine. I mean, there's groups where they feel too masculine for me, like super alpha, and I go, man, I feel insecure there. But they got them there too. You just got to go and find it, right? So, so anyway, these are just the conversations that need to be had to make it not weird.
Yeah.
And then you go, yeah, Preston, that makes sense. And now the work begins.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go? You got to prioritize the amount of men that come to, I do a men's group 3 times a month, and guys go, oh my God, I need to go. They won't go. Oh my God. They go once. Oh man, they're too busy. Dude, it has to become a priority. It's just like working out, just like work. It's just like your kids in relationship. It has to be a non-negotiable if you're going to do that stuff, because it's too easy to quit. Quitting is easy. Starting over is easy. It's the easiest thing to do. To use is easy. To stop is easy. It's staying stopped that's the problem.
Yeah.
Right? It's I'm not going to yell anymore. That's easy. But staying, not yelling.
Yeah.
Right. Not being passive aggressive. All right, I'm done. I'm not going to be passive aggressive. That's easy.
Yeah. Saying and doing.
But do it consistently over a period of time. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I love the message, and you're very right. Like even the way and we didn't get into it today, but we did in a roundabout way. Just even the way us counselors talk to our clients, and since you came and talked at our luncheon, I've incorporated some of like the things that you share with my clients, and not in the same way, but like the way you say it, but it comes with like, hey, I'm asking you to practice these things at home, right? I see you once a week, maybe,
sure.
Right? 1 hour a week. But like, and I bring in like their sports and their activities. Like, you do these things how many times a week? So like, I need you to practice this like once a day. I need you to practice this all the time, because the things you're telling me, right, are hard. And they're not going to change if you don't make the change, if you don't do it. I can't be with you, right?
Yeah.
If I could, I'd be like, hey, do that thing. Hey, do that thing. You have to do that for yourself. And so like, those are conversations that I'm trying to like give like clients, like, you have to practice this. If you want this to change, if you're not feeling well, whatever that well is, you have to do the work more than just when you're sitting here with me in this office.
Yeah.
And
I wonder if putting the hour number on there is helpful. In other words, when that's why I like using the workout example.
Yeah.
Because I go, do the workout. Let's do the workout example 3 to 5 times a week, 45 minutes, We're, working out, eating, going to the gym, whatever. You usually come up with like 5 to 7 hours kind of on the low, 20 hours on the high. That's extreme. But you go 5 hours, 5 to 7 hour, 5 to 7 is the amount of hours. You've got to be able to tie it in with them in a way that they understand, but it's typically 5 to 7 hours. Me and you meet for an hour a week. There you go. That's 1 hour. You've got to figure out how to get these hours in some way. You could do walking meditation. You could do journaling. You could do, whatever your thing. We got a list of things you can do. These are the list, but you got to get it to 5 hours.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm, so it's now I go, yeah, wow. Okay. So I can shoot to that. And you go, it's a lot, and you're not going to want to do it. In sales, it's you pull the venom out. We got to pull the objection out before they give it. So typically I go, hey, look, I'm going to tell you to do something you're not going to want to do. It's like this.
Right. Reverse psychology there.
You're definitely not going to want to do it. And you know what? Most people quit because it's hard, And they'll go, no, I'm not going to quit. No. But it's like, look, you're not going to want to do it. It's weird. It's uncomfortable. You're going to sit down and meditate and you can't stop your mind. Yeah, it sucks. You're going to get busy. Things are going to come up. Oh, I had this thing. You're going to want to reschedule the thing. But you also got to get to 5 hours. So what are you going to do to when that thought comes, this sucks, or when that thing comes up and you go, oh, now something came up. It's like, those are the resiliency skills that I'm asking you to build, and we're going to do it together. But if you just rely on what we're doing, you're writing me checks and you're paying my mortgage, and it's not going to work.
Yep.
Right. So it's that kind of conversation. And now it's like this, because to act like this shit's easy and you can do it 10 minutes a day, it's bonkers.
Yeah. I say that all the time. I wish I could just that's
the wrapping paper versus the present. If I tell everybody, Kaela, look, this is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. It's going to take you 5 years and it's still going to suck. Everybody's going to go, screw that. Not a chance in hell. But you got to do the wrapping paper. It's got to be pretty. But like in 10 minutes a day, you can change your life. Ooh, I like that. So now we get them in. Now we get them, hey, in the next 90 days, I'm going to give you a 90-day plan to make $1 million. That's the wrapping paper. And then once I get you in, now I go, this is going to be hard. And now people are going to do one of two things. Okay, you got me, or screw that, and they're not going to do it.
Right.
That is applicable across the board everywhere. It's not just this, but we have got to put it in a way that people understand it to give them a better shot to do it.
Yeah.
And it sounds articulate and like a good plan here, but in practice, I have just as much challenge talking to people because it's hard and it's difficult. But if we don't talk about it, nobody else will.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate all the work you're doing in spreading that awareness, especially like at schools and, like you said, around the country, talking about this subject, because that's how we're going to spread that awareness.
Yeah.
And so this is just yet another way. And, I was inspired by your story and the way you talk and the ideas that you brought to the table. So I know that you can inspire a lot of other people as well.
Yeah.
So.
No, I appreciate it. And if you ever have, I speak all over the place. I did a TED Talk. The TED Talk is called How Social Support Can Fight Mental Health and Addiction Stigma. It's on YouTube. I've got a website, kprestonmoore.com. And what I'm really trying to do is connect with people, whether it's a lot of associations, because they do conferences. So keynotes, workshops. I do a lot with first responders, schools. Mental health and addiction services are pretty low hanging fruit, but a lot of HR and businesses like corporations trying to get people to utilize the resources. It's having a conversation in a way where people proactively do that. So if you either come across, or maybe your audience knows someone that brings speakers in like that, I love a connection. But thank you so much for having me. And I like your holistic approach. I think more people should be in a more well-rounded, holistic approach to mental and emotional health care, and I appreciate that you do that. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, cheers.